Good morning, folks. It's the San Jacinto Trail Report from San Jacinto Peak here right behind me, and it is Monday the 5th of May 2025, about 9:30 in the morning, and although I look pretty bundled up, it's actually relatively mild here. It's only a couple of degrees centigrade below freezing, about 28 Fahrenheit, but the breeze when it blows is pretty fresh. It's about 15 Fahrenheit, is about -9 centigrade, and as you can see, we've had another of these sort of micro snowstorms. I was up here yesterday and looking around, and all the rocks were bare, and I came up and there was essentially no snow on the trail anywhere, and it's all changed again. So it was snowing on me very lightly as I descended most of yesterday late morning. Graupel, small pellets, snow pellets, but as you can see, it's actually a decent depth. Up here at the peak, it's probably averaging close to 4 inches. It was a bit of a strange one. Obviously the forecasts kind of got it a little bit wrong. They were generally not predicting more than a dusting of about half an inch, maybe even an inch at most up here. Obviously we got a fair bit more than that. That said, it basically didn't settle below about 9,000 feet. I saw evidence of dusting this morning down to about 7,000, but it was either too mild or the ground and trail and rocks were too warm for it to settle. So it sort of abruptly appears really at about 9,000 feet. So that's one positive there for PCT hikers, is if you actually stay on the PCT, don't come up to San Jacinto Peak but stay on the PCT, essentially you stay below the worst of the snow. At about 9,000 feet, it sort of fairly abruptly averaged about 2 inches, pushed on up to about 3 inches by about 10,000 feet. And like I say, it's probably maybe 3.5 to 4 up here in the highest peaks. So the main trails below about 9,000 feet, like I say, which is the vast majority of the PCT, pretty straightforward to follow, because there's very little or no snow. The only places that it's somewhat accumulated at lower elevations is where it's fallen on old snow, but at those elevations there was very little old snow remaining anyway. In terms of traction, like I say, for PCTers who stay on the PCT, if you're not using spikes at the moment, you'll probably be fine without using spikes. If you're carrying spikes, you might find you use them. I've seen PCT hiker tracks this morning going around on Strawberry Trail, so around through Strawberry Junction. They weren't using spikes. Looks like a couple of PCTers stayed up here overnight. They didn't have spikes on. So for PCT hikers coming through, there's already a track on the PCT through where most of the snow is. Likewise, carrying on around through Fuller Ridge, there's already a track to follow. Can't be sure how accurate it is to the trail, but the snow depths are so shallow that in general there's no reason why it shouldn't be pretty close to the track. So spikes are not really required. I'm not sure whether I'm actually going to update the website, sanjacjohn.com, simply because the forecast is pretty remarkable. It's for temperatures to very quickly climb to not only above seasonal for May, but actually sort of July, August type temperatures. We're due for some lows and highs in the 50s and possibly even in the 80s for the highs in about even just 2, 3, 4 days time. Something like the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th of May. So Obviously none of this will last more than a day or two as soon as the sun comes out. That's not due to happen today. That may well happen starting probably tomorrow, on the 6th. So conditions will change again. But like I say, primarily it only affects folks coming up above 9,000 feet, coming up to the higher peaks. And otherwise, it's a beautiful day up here. And safe hiking, everyone.